Hello, everyone. Nick here. Thank you very much for tuning in today for the book review. Hope you're all doing well. We are going through the Deadtime Storybooks, and we have made it to book 12 now, and we are at Welcome to the Terror Go-Round. Pretty cool. We have looks like a Grim Reaper figure. He is riding on a scary-looking horse on a carousel. We don't get too much detail in the background. It's more focused on the Grim Reaper here and this scary looking horse with the red eye here. But there's another one in the background, similar dress as this one. Do love the colors there. Love the red eye of the horse. The background kind of like this red and blue. One of my favorite details, I'll bring it a little closer, about this is you see these white lines here. You can kind of see them on the horses, but it's pretty much signifying that they are in movement, which I really like, that they added that effect. So very cool motion movement there. Great painting. We have the introduction color here at the top, nice blue. Yeah, very solid cover. One of my favorites so far here. One of the things interesting about this cover is the skeleton Grim Reaper we see here. This entity does not appear in the book whatsoever. So I think this is the first time in this series case where the front cover, I guess, is deceptive of the story. Don't know what happened there. It still fits really well with the theme of this. Carousel is in the book and does play a prominent role. And unfortunately, I do not have the tattoo insert in the book. This copy did not have it. But I think the tattoo is pretty much this skeleton guy up there. It's just a small little hand tattoo of the skeleton guy, which unfortunately I didn't have, but can't win them all, I guess. So how did I feel about this book? I liked it. It's a carnival book. We are introduced to the two main characters of the story, Alex and his brother Joey. The main narrator voice is Alex. He is the more, I guess, sensible one, more cautious, as opposed to Joey, who's very steadfast and he's mischievous. This is a very common dynamic that I have seen through these books. Usually the main protagonist, they are more of the careful, more cautious, more thought-focused main character, and the sidekick, which in this case is his brother Joey, is the more mischievous one, the one that gets them into the trouble. They live in this town called Middletown. It's very generic. There's nothing that goes on here. They have like a Civil War statue in the middle of town, like the main attraction. They mention this a couple times in the book, I guess, to kind of see where they're at in the book, which I'll go into more detail later about. Yeah, nothing really goes on in this town. It's just a boring town. There's really nothing to do. So they're on summer break, and they're sitting there at like a playground in the park doing nothing, and they're really bored. You kind of get a little bit of the story with Alex and Joey. So the book actually opens up with Alex being chased by a monster, and he's going under this closed bridge trying to get away from it, and they pass their neighbor who makes a couple appearances in this book, Mrs. Wilcox, kind of the nosy older lady, kind of like, oh, you kids, kind of stereotype, character type, if you will. Eventually the monster catches him, and it's Joey. And, he's just, Alex just really is not a fan of his brother and his shenanigans, always tormenting him. They are close in age, so Joey is the youngest. He came 9 months after Alex was born. Alex is the eldest. So right after his parents had Alex, not too long had Joey. So they're very close in age. It's interesting. There is like a storm cloud that comes out of nowhere, and these carnival tickets come out from the sky, and there's so many of them. And Joey is just so thrilled by this, and Alex is like, what? This is dumb. This is too good to be true, because it seems like these carnival tickets just coming out of nowhere. I mean, there's no carnival in town, And Joey says, oh, well, it's, a promotional stunt to get people to come into the carnival. And so, they don't leave, and they're there forever, and Alex really wants to get home. So Joey, has to pick up all the tickets with all these different rewards regarding the carnival. So they go home. Mom is like, where have you been, kind of thing. Then later in the night, as Alex is trying to sleep, Joey comes in and he wakes him up. He's like, let's go to the carnival. Then we see carnival carriages coming into town. So I guess from where their window is, they can see out and see that they're coming into town. But the weird thing is that there are no drivers for these caravans bringing the carnival into town, which Alex finds suspicious. But Joey's like, it's okay. Let's just sneak out and go get a peek before everyone comes in the morning. Hesitantly goes with him, sneaks out with him. So they head to where the carnival is being set up, and it's already set up, perfectly. And it's empty. And they're like, man, this is so eerie. And they're going around. It's like cotton candy. And Alex, really wants some cotton candy. And Joey's like, oh, I got a ticket. So he just takes his ticket that he grabbed the previous day, places it on the counter, even though there's nobody there. And he's like, there you go. I have the ticket. They'll get it when they get it, kind of thing. And so they're just moseying through the carnival. Of course, has eerie feeling this whole time. And then we are met with the main attraction of the book, the merry-go-round, instead of a merry-go-round. And it says, ride at your own risk. So the boys get on it, and they're presented with these big, terrifying-looking carousel horses, not like your normal merry-go-round. And they go and sit on them, and the ride doesn't move, and so they're like, oh, why is it not moving? And then they find this booth, and it has like a wooden dummy with a top hat, and they give it the tickets, and the ride starts to spin finally, and these horses are moving and trying to knock them off with how fast the ride's going, and they're holding on for dear life from this really intense ride. And so eventually it stops, but now it's daylight, and something kind of weird we notice. So there are people now in the carnival, but there's something strange about them. So they go out of the ride, and they notice that there's a fella and saying stuff like, oh man, that's groovy. And they have long beards and long hair, and the girls there have like long hair, and they're hippies pretty much. So what we figure out is that the merry-go-round takes them back in time. So now they're in the 1970s, and they can't be seen by anybody, which is interesting. So they're pretty much invisible. And then we meet the villain of the book, Arbok, not the purple snake Pokemon, but he is ringleader of the circus. He has the suit, the top hat, but his skin is this weird scaly yellow, and he's got a snake-like mouth. And you can tell by his name if you look at it. Arbok is cobra backwards. But instead of the Pokemon that's spelled, with the K at the end, it's spelled, the regular spelling with C. So Arbok is there, and he's like, well, I see that you've made it into my carnival, pretty much. And, he is a snake, it's pretty much on the nose. He's the bad guy. He's tricked them, kind of thing. And they're like, whoa, this can't be happening. And, of course, Alex is like, Joey, I can't believe you got me into this, kind of thing. So Arbok takes them to the circus, carnies, and, we have the bearded lady, we have the invisible man, which is, the fellow that's covered in tattoos, and have a dancing girl. Her name is Nancy. Hers is the name that I remember distinctly. But we have Nancy. She can't quit dancing, and she's miserable, and they see the two boys and they're like, oh, Arbok has pretty much got him another circus act. He's tricked someone else to join. And so the kids are, so upset about this. He's like, I can't wait to make you, part of the attraction. Can't go back now. Ha 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 ha. Very unfortunate for them. And at one point, they actually meet, or they see their parents in the carnival when they're 16. And even though they're invisible and can't be seen, they still have like some control over the physics in the past. So like their dad is looking at their mom, across the way, and she notices him looking, very stereotypical, How I Met Your Mother type situation. Goes over to her and meets her. They start to flirt, and then they're going to go on the carousel. I think it's Joey. He's like, oh, mom, dad. He like bumps into his dad, and like his dad has a drink, and like it spills onto their mom. And so their mom's like, oh, you creep. And the dad's just looking in disbelief, like, what did I do? What did I do? And of course, Arbok's in the background just laughing, evilly at what happened. So when we get to the carnival and the carnies, we learn a little bit about them. They're not really like major players in the story. We get more so with Nancy, I guess. She's, the most stand out. She's also the most recent capturee Arbok. He's made her the dancing girl where she can't quit dancing. She hates it. She's like, oh, how it, came to this, as the rest of them. And I kind of picked up on this, like what attraction they would be made into, and also from the ones that were already mentioned, trying to process of elimination, of which, Carney character's missing. So since they were brothers, very close in age, he's going to make them into conjoined Siamese twins. And so like his was starting to happen where, they're starting to come together and kind of combine in a way, like through their like jeans, that they're wearing. And they're like, this can't be. But they're able to pull apart, thankfully for now. But of course, they can't be too close because, keep getting forced together. So anyway, Carnies are like, well, it's pretty much over. There is one thing that you can try, though. You can play one of Arbok's games, and if you win, he will let you go back on the merry-go-round so you can go back to your time, which in this case is the pub date for the book in 1997. So they're trying to get back to 1997. And then they go and they find Arbok in his tent. Of course, he has the biggest tent. And from where, the merry-go-round is essentially a time machine, he has gone back through the different, time periods, and he's amassed this great tent full of treasure and things like that. And so they come to like this, like this container, like cobras are in, like in, Egypt and stuff, or where you see them stereotypically, where the snake whisperer is conjuring them out of that container. And so, they run into this container, and here pops out this giant cobra, which is Arbok. It has like this really uncomfortable transformation, starting in like its stomach back to his more humanoid form. And he's like, you ruined my nap. What do you want? Kind of thing. And they're like, well, we want to play your game so we can go back home. He's like, so you've been talking to the other Carnies. So we'll go ahead and get this over with, kind of thing. So he makes Nancy pick the first game, which is ball toss. And Arbok makes them difficult and hard to do. Alex is a pitcher, though, confident he can do it and knock down milk bottles. No luck, though. And then eventually, Joey, like he sees a way around the games like this one, and so they're able to knock it down. And Arbok's is mad, of course, because he wasn't specific and able to find a loophole in that. And then the other one is like a hammer, like hitting the bell or whatever. And of course, the hammer is so heavy they can't lift it up. There's like a BB gun nearby that Joey shoots. And so in the last couple seconds they have to hit the bell, he hits it with the BB gun. And then the last one, Arbok tries to make it, more specific so they can't do any of these loopholes. And he takes Nancy, and he takes, like a candied apple, and he puts it on her head, and it's the archery. And they, he's like, see if you can, do this one. And they're like, oh no, not Nancy. And Nancy's like, it's okay. This is a worst fate. We want you to win, kind of thing. Because the Carnies are, rooting for them to defeat Arbok at this point, particularly Nancy. And so they get the arrows ready, and it's Alex. He misses the first one, trying to get this golden key that Arbok has, and it's what operates the merry-go-round, and it's on a chain around his neck. And so as he's reaching to get the other arrow, I think it's Joey that goes and tries to grab the key, but of course Arbok grabs on tight to him, not letting him go, being like, and you just forfeited the second arrow. So then they're down to one more arrow, and instead of shooting Nancy, they shoot Arbok, and they're able to, I think Joey's able to grab the key from him. And so he's pinned to the ground, this giant, scary cobra. They have the key, and they're going to run to the merry-go-round. The Carnies stop them, though, and they're like, you're not going without us, though. And they're like, okay. So they all go to the merry-go-round, and they're trying to make it work, but it's just not happening. And then they hear in the distance the people screaming, because all of a sudden here comes the giant cobra, which is Arbok. So here comes Arbok, and he's gotten, off of the arrow, and he's coming to get them now. And they're trying desperately to get it to work. And eventually Joey just smashes the buttons to make it work. So, and then it's going in motion, but going backwards in time. At some point, I forgot to mention, they tried the Tarot-Go-Round again because Joey had another ticket for it, but it took them way forward in time, like in the year 25,000. People are on jetpacks and stuff, which is pretty funny. So I forgot to mention that before they went back and, talked to the carnies and talked to Arbok. They're able to get it to spin backwards now, and it looks like they're able to do it in time before Arbok got back on the Tarot-Go-Round, and so they're able to give him the slip. And they still, can't get this thing to work, get it to stop. So they pass by 1997. Nancy's like, oh man, I don't want to risk it if, we can't get this thing to work. And I'm just going to jump, she says. So she jumps around her time, which is 1955 is the original time she was from. So she jumps, and of course we don't know, because from outside we can, I guess they can tell, the time, and it looks like the same place from. So we assume when she jumped out, everything was fine. Everything went back to normal for her. One by one, the other carnies jumped off. The last one being the bearded lady. Her time was like 1870, something like that. And she wished the boys, good luck on getting back home. But of course, they just keep going backwards and backwards. Then all of a sudden, there's this thing on the ceiling, and it's Arbok. And he actually made it in time on the Tarot-Go-Round. And he's coming down in snake form. And, he's, going to get the boys now. Transforms back into his humanoid form. And he's like, it's pointless, fellas. The only one that knows how to work this thing. So just give up. We're going to go back, and we're going to go get everyone else from their time again. And you are going to be stuck, in my carnival forever. And so they're running and, running from him around the carousel, trying to escape him. And then at some point, they fall, they're getting closer to the edge of it, going to fall off. And of course, they're like way in the past now. As, I think it's Joey that's about to fall. Unfortunately, Arbok does. And so they're in the Ice Age now. And so Arbok falls out of the Ice Age. He hits this solid block of ice, and he just shatters into pieces. Defeated Arbok, though they're still going backwards, and they can't get the Tarot-Go-Round to work. They're going to just keep going forever. But eventually, they do get it to go back forward. Can't get it to stop, and it's going to have to jump when it comes to back around to 1998. So they're counting it down, going through the different times, and they're thinking, oh, it would be so cool to go back in time and see this, this, and this, but unfortunately they can't get it to stop. 1998 comes around, they jump out, and they're back in Middletown in their time, and it's in the morning. The town is quiet. Nobody's woken up yet. They're like, oh, we got to get back home before Mom finds us. And so as they're heading home, see Mrs. Wilcox, she's taking the trash down. They're like, oh man, if she sees us, she's going to tell Mom. And Joey's like, just play it cool. If we get caught, because apparently this is normal for him to get caught and talk himself out of these situations, we'll just tell him, yeah, we went for a morning walk. But Alex is like, how is that when they know, you're my annoying brother and I wouldn't go out, and walk with you under any circumstances, kind of thing, which is, funny. Mrs. Wilcox doesn't notice them at all. And they're like, oh, well, that's good. And so they go back into the house, and there's Mom, and she's making breakfast, and Dad's, reading the newspaper at the table. And they're like, Mom, we're home. But they don't notice the kids. It's like they're still invisible. Their mom goes, to kiss the husband. We find out, oh, well, he's not our dad. That's our mailman. Like an entirely different two kids come down, and they're like, what? This can't be happening. So when they're in the past, in the 1970s, Joey had knocked his dad's drink out of his hand and, splashed it on Mom's face. He didn't end up together because of that. She thought he was a creep because of that. In this alternate timeline, she married the mailman, and they reminisced on when they met on the carnival, and they wondered what happened to Joey and Alex's dad, or the man that was supposed to be their dad, because they never met. And so they're like, oh man. And so Joey's like, well, it looks like we're going to have to go back and ride the Tarot-Go-Round to fix this. And so the book just ends there. It's a shorter book. I think this is the shortest book in the series so far, I found. It was only at like 105 pages as opposed to the standard 120, 125 that you see with these, and like the original Goosebumps that came out, at the time, same time. I mean, you can kind of see the ending coming. I thought it was okay ending. The book, I enjoyed the idea of a time travel merry-go-round, spookified, so to speak. I thought that was a fun concept. We don't really get too much interaction with the other carnies. They're just kind of there to help promote, hey, we're in a carnival. These are carnival themes, you know, carnival characters you see. Did like Arbok as a villain. I thought that was a pretty interesting villain choice. But of course, no Grim Reaper to be found in this book, unfortunately. But you know, it was pretty solid book, 6 or 7. There were things that I liked about it. It's like the fight scene with Arbok when they're in a Terra-Go-Round trying to get it to go back forward in time. I thought that was cool. Yeah, just, you know, a couple things there I liked, but it was, you know, pretty plain kind of carnival theme story. Not the worst I've ever read, but, you know, not my favorite. So I give it, you know, 6.5 to 7, like I have pretty much all of these. I think they're just very middle of the road books, enjoyable enough, but there's nothing that really makes me love them, unfortunately. I think they're just kind of safe in that regard, but not a bad story. If you have read this one, what do you think? If you haven't read it, go check it out. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.